Welcome to Atlas Leadership Academy, where our goal is to offer world-class leadership to influence worldwide change. My name is William King. I am a PhD candidate in business leadership and a CEO of Atlas Realty Group. Additionally, I am a Maxwell Leadership Facilitator, speaker, and coach.
My name is Marianne Owen. I am the Executive Vice President for Atlas Leadership Academy and the Director of Marketing and Branding at Atlas Realty Group. And we are very excited about today. We are talking about the most fun topic ever, conflict resolution. We are talking about how to fight fair, and to get over it.
Well, the first part I want to address is this is the first time we're actually going to do a two-part series.
Yes.
So because conflict resolution is such an important topic within leadership and understanding how to address conflict and get over it, we're going to do it in two parts.
Yes.
So today is part one, and next week you'll get part two. So for part one, at first we want to talk about, Marianne, what exactly is a conflict? What determines if this is a conflict?
Okay, so in just short terms, conflict is a fight. But the Webster's Dictionary, I think, defines conflict as the process that unfolds when two or more people's interests are not in alignment with each other. So different reasons for conflict are individual biases, cultural beliefs, social status, and other determining factors which people may, have their values that they prioritize over maybe somebody else's thoughts or feelings.
Okay, so what you're saying is anything can be a conflict if you and I just don't agree on whatever the subject may be.
That is correct.
Then we have a potential conflict.
You do have potential conflict, yeah.
What about if we agree to disagree? Is that still a conflict? Or is that conflict resolution?
Well, I don't think that's conflict resolution at all. It's like you're still in disagreement.
I'm just agreeing to disagree with what you said.
But you still don't agree.
True that.
It's still a conflict. It's just that you're choosing not to focus on the fight anymore. It's just like, well, I still don't agree with you, but I'm choosing to move on with my life.
So let me get this straight. You're saying that the goal of conflict resolution is to come to an agreement.
To come to a meeting of the minds. I would say that. What would you think?
But we don't necessarily have to agree.
I think the important part is for everybody to see all sides. You might not agree with, say, the means to get there or, all of the points in said conflict. But if everybody's end goal is the same, then you come to an agreement.
Right. So before any conflict resolution conversation should take place, I think it's important to establish the goal of the conversation.
Absolutely.
So to make sure we're both on the same page and both have the same goal, right?
I agree.
And then I believe meeting of the minds can actually occur. What are some of the stages of conflict resolution?
So the stages would be latent, perceived and felt, conflict approach, stalemate or negotiation, and the aftermath. So
the aftermath is my favorite part because that means we should all walk away happy.
Everybody should walk away happy, or even if you're not happy, it's like, well, at least I have some resolve about it. Okay.
Now today in this video series, we're going to talk about 18 essential qualities that every single leader should have before going into a conflict resolution conversation. And the first one that we're going to talk about is curiosity. Now, curiosity is simply asking, clarifying, or engaging questions that allow people to describe their opinion or describe their value proposition on their side, whether it's an emotional attachment or whether it's an opinionated thing or whether someone believes that they should do something better. But it's always important that you should be curious about the conversation in the first place.
Right. I absolutely agree with that because you should always want to know, well, what caused this? Why is there conflict? As a leader, you're going to be the one stepping in and then, basically casting judgment.
Agreed.
So you should be curious to, well, how did we get here? What was the process? Like, what happened? Tell me more. Let me hear both sides so I can understand.
Right.
So we can all come together. So the next one is emotional intelligence. And then in your curiosity and asking questions, you want to be able to be a leader that empathizes and is able to connect and understand where people are coming from. So emotional intelligence consists of 4 quadrants: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management.
Oh, you just definitely hit the nail on the head with the hammer.
Yeah.
Now, the third quality I think every leader should have when approaching a conflict resolution conversation is flexibility. Now, adaptability is not necessarily preventing a conflict. But I think it's important as leaders you should be able to think on your feet and come up with solutions in your mind as you hear someone else talking.
Yes. And then also where you're getting into flexibility, it's also maybe hearing a different point of view. And even if it's not something that you would do yourself, but being flexible enough to be like, that might be a better way.
Right.
So being flexible in that. So the next one is objectiveness. So it's leaders who are managing the conflict, trying to get everything, settled and kind of have a meeting of the minds, must stay objective. Even if your personal belief is maybe to lean one side or another,
Right.
you can't choose sides. Have you ever been in a situation where you was like, I cannot choose sides, but I want to choose sides?
Absolutely. All right. Now, I believe one of my personal favorite qualities of leadership as it relates to conflict resolution is integrity and respect.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're approaching a conflict resolution conversation, number one, you have to do it with integrity. And number two, you have to respect the other person,
You do.
their viewpoint, and respect yourself, most importantly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, aligning personal and organizational values with conflict management ensures leaders act with integrity as they handle uncomfortable situations.
So the next one is patience.
Ooh,
Rome wasn't built in a day.
we can always use a little bit more patience.
We all can. Yeah, absolutely. So in order to understand, because sometimes conflicts really, really run deep, especially since sometimes they could go under the radar for a while. And then when we're just now seeing maybe the blow up, it had
Right.
been something that had been happening for months, maybe even years. And so being a good leader, trying to get use all of our key points that we had mentioned earlier, being curious, being flexible, being objective, you're going to have to take the time to get in and really kind of like have those discussions, those one-on-ones, and listen to all sides and everyone involved in the conflict to be able to provide a resolution, So it will take a lot of patience. I think sometimes also in dealing with different personalities and things like that, they could kind of maybe even push your buttons a little bit to where it's just like,
But this all
This is
requires
dumb.
patience.
it
This
requires
is dumb.
patience. Yeah, this is dumb.
And guys, these are real conversations for real leaders. We living in the real world. This is not fluff and stuff. And sometimes a leader, you may think this is dumb,
Yeah.
but you must remain
dumb. This is a
patient.
waste of my time. I
Correct.
can't believe I'm spending money on this.
Good.
And want everybody to just move on because there's other things to be done. However, you have to stop yourself and then, like you said, have respect and then,
Right.
see the integrity in everyone else and then be able to hear their story and then help them get to where you might be, to where it's just like, let's keep pushing forward. Let's all come together. So
Right.
patience is definitely a virtue.
Number 7 is forgiveness. I think this is one of the challenges that a lot of people actually face is actually forgiving one. Now, forgiveness looks a little bit something like this. I see you, I understand you, and while I may not agree with you or how you acted, I still care about you and want you to keep working on building a strong relationship together. Now, I believe that forgiveness is important because it also stops negativity through patterns and from turning into negative actions.
Mhm.
If we all can just learn to forgive. Now, forgiveness has a lot to do with patience.
Yes.
It has a lot to do with acceptance,
Hmm.
flexibility, and then also integrity, and then also emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
So all
And
of these
respect,
and respect.
yeah.
So all of these characteristics are starting to blend together,
Hmm.
but we have to learn to forgive.
Yes.
Marianne, what's number 8?
Number 8, positivity.
Okay.
So, Zig Ziglar once said, positive thinking will let you do everything better than negative thinking will. And that is so very true. I used to
Very
call
true.
myself a perpetual pessimist, and everything was going wrong. But, everything begins in the mind. Like, positive thinking gives you positive outcomes,
Right.
and looking on the bright side of things, finding the silver lining gives you better outcomes than negative thinking will. So, it's very important, especially in times of conflict, to be positive and upbeat, not dismissive,
Right.
but it's like, hey, it's okay. We're going to get through this. I hear you. I understand you, but it's okay. It's
Right.
okay. We're all human. We're all family here.
Me
Being
myself,
positive and smiling.
I'm a natural, what we call a hapster.
Yes.
I'm like happy all the time, bouncing off the walls. Everything's gonna be okay. The world is on fire, but I got water.
Mhm.
and it's going to be okay. I may only have a cup, but I got water.
But he's got it. Yeah.
So we're going to figure it out, and we're going to get through this, you know? And so that's more of my personality style. Where
Yes,
everything
almost-
is okay.
Almost at times like delusional happiness, because I'll be
Correct.
like, what?
Correct. And in those times we're in the office and you like, what? I be thinking, don't worry, Maria. I understand that we're in the red for the last 8 quarters, but it's going to be okay. Our jobs are safe. We were in the red last 8 quarters. That's just an example. I'm just a hamster
Just
all
an
day.
example, yes.
Which leads me to number 9, humor. While it isn't always an appropriate strategy when dealing with conflict, sometimes humor can break the ice between people. We all love a little bit of jokes.
Yes.
Laughter really brings healing to the soul.
It really does, and it lightens the mood. It causes your body, like a physical reaction in your body to, reduce stress, anxiety, tension. It's like the quickest way to get me out of a bad mood is to make me laugh. And then I'm mad because you made me laugh. I'm like going to be angry.
Correct.
And you've made me laugh. But
And then we can have
works.
an honest conversation then because we're both laughing. It's all
Yes.
lighthearted. It's not too heavy, So if you're ever in a situation to where someone's angry with you
yes.
and you don't know quite what to say, tell a joke. Even if it's corny, just tell a joke. The famous, knock knock jokes or why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side?
Yeah.
Those
Oh
type of jokes.
gosh, the cornier.
The cornier the better.
the
The cornier
better.
someone laugh. So have a little bit of humor. Marianne, what's number 10?
Open communication. So, open communication is a great conflict management tool because what that is not just talking, okay? It is actually providing a safe place to where people can feel comfortable. And I like to call it the no judgment zone.
Right.
Say what you got to say it however you're feeling it, and it's okay, And then it leads to foster a sense of trust and safety, to where it's just like, I can be real with this person, I can say it how I'm feeling, and then be redirected if needed, or given a different perspective
Right.
if needed. So I know I've been given that in my history, and it's made like a really big difference to me to be able to just kind of like speak up. Now of course the way I've been speaking has been I guess you can say shaped, molded a little bit to where it was like, not me swearing like Samuel L. Jackson all the time, but actually using other words to articulate what I'm thinking
Use
and
your
feeling.
vocabulary.
Yes, use your words, not those words. But being allowed to have that space to just say it how I was feeling it.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, I understand what you're feeling. I understand what you're saying. Now, how do we fix it? Now, how do I get you to a place to where you can say this in front of other people, of course, in a better, but say this to, let's say, the CEO or the COO to
Right.
where they would be able to hear you, because it's not like your ideas are bad. It's just your delivery is.
Understood.
So
That's a huge difference. What people need to understand that sometimes what you say is not always a bad thing. It's typically how you say it.
yes.
So the delivery can mess up an entire message.
Hmm.
There was this video on YouTube a while back where this guy was a motivational speaker and he was giving people positive affirmations, but he was yelling at the crowd and everybody was scared.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure he said all good things, but
Right.
nobody took it as that, because it's like,
because it was aggressive, the wrong
sir,
tone.
you're yelling at us.
So that's everything.
Yes.
Now, 11 is assertive communication. Assertive communication is the 11th leadership principle that we want to instill within ourselves as leaders if we're going to go into a conflict resolution conversation. Now, assertive communication doesn't necessarily mean being a jerk,
Hmm.
but I would like for you to say exactly what you mean in a very respectful and tactful way.
Right.
I don't think there's anything else to say more about that, but being assertive simply means being direct and being open and honest about what it is you want to say.
Yes, and also I'll just add on to that, to where it's like you're not afraid to go in and have that conversation.
Right.
Like as a leader, if you see conflict,
Right.
even if people aren't bringing it to you, you can see it, and then you need to be like, okay, what's going on here?
The number one thing that a lot of leaders face is having uncomfortable conversations.
Hmm.
So even if conversations are uncomfortable, as a leader, you need to be assertive and put yourself into the fire in order to resolve the conflict.
That's right. Go in there with your cup of water, put the fire out.
What's number 12, Marianne?
Active listening. One of my favorites, because I always say, a lot of times miscommunication happens because people are listening to respond as opposed to listening to understand. And you can't be ready to clap back, whenever you're in a conflict resolution, because the
Right.
key word is resolution, not the conflict.
So,
So,
so what you're saying is people typically don't respond well because they are ready to speak well before they listen and receive what you're saying.
yes, because they're in fight
Ooh,
mode.
that was active listening.
It was active listening. Look at you. Check, gold star. But no, yeah, seriously, but absolutely, that's what it is.
Right.
People are ready to jump and then bring their viewpoints, because a lot of times whenever there is conflict, the core of it is because people feel like their side wasn't heard, or they're being misunderstood, or nobody sees things the way I
Right.
see it, just feeling like in a bad place. And being able to get everybody in a place to where it's like, let's listen to each other, let's listen to what's actually wrong,
Right.
and then get to a place to where we can resolve this, comes from active listening.
I think it's important to note as well that a lot of conflict tends to go on because people automatically want to defend,
Hmm.
right?
Defend themselves, yeah.
Defend themselves
'cause
instead
in
of taking down that barrier
Mhm.
and understanding that you are not my opposition. We are here for a resolution.
Right.
So I don't have to defend myself. It's one thing to state my position, but to constantly defend my position and not be open and flexible about what you're saying,
Hmm.
you're never going to get anywhere.
Right. That's right.
So, number 13 is going to be stress management. That is that fight or flight response.
Hmm.
Okay. This can really alter another person's mood. Just like you said, as soon as someone says something and they're ready to clap back, right?
Yes.
We don't want to do that. As soon as someone says anything, we want to diffuse the situation, reduce stress levels, be humorous, tell a joke or two,
Hmm.
lighten the mood so no one's stressed out about it, and let's just have a conversation.
Right.
That's all it takes.
That's right. Keep the focus.
Right.
It's like, we're here as a team. We are here to resolve this.
Correct.
Because the goal is, whatever our goal is.
Hmm.
So, and that leads into the next point, collaboration. It's very, very important as a conflict management skill. And it prevents, further conflict from happening, is keeping everybody in the know, casting vision, communicating that vision, and then letting each person know how you matter to this vision.
I love it. Number 15 is compromise. It is very important to compromise. That is the only way that we're going to come to a resolution.
Compromise is
If
such
someone-
a dirty word.
It's a dirty word, but I think we need to have the ability to compromise.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if you have one position and I'm in another position, someone has to give in order to come to an agreement.
Mhm.
Somebody.
Well, both
And
should have to give.
I understand that, and both should have to. Yeah, both should have to give some.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you're saying the sky is blue and I'm saying it's green, you know what I mean. I need to be open enough to hear your standpoint to seeing why the sky is blue,
Mhm.
and after listening to you, I need to be flexible enough to say, you know what, maybe the sky is blue.
Right.
So the
And
sky's
in that
blue.
compromise, I might say, oh, well, he's colorblind. That's why he thinks the sky is green. So
Right.
I understand your perspective.
Correct. I love it. Number 16, Marianne, go ahead and take us through it.
Negotiation. You see how we negotiated a little bit? So whenever you are resolving conflict as a leader, you got to ask, the parties involved, what are some non-negotiables?
Right.
It's like, because some people I know in like my previous work history, they would not work Sundays. Like, when we had like a Sunday schedule, would not work Sundays because of, church or, religious affiliations and things like that. So those
Right.
were they're non-negotiables. Unfortunately, it does cause some conflict because it's like some other people's like, why do I have to work every Sunday? I may not go to church, but I have like family things that I want to do.
Sure.
There might be some travel or whatever that I want to take, and this person gets off every Sunday where I have to work, and that caused conflict. So, getting people's non-negotiables, but then also seeing how does that fit into the team dynamic? How does that work for other people?
Right.
And then using assertive communication to clearly state what is the team objective. It's like, well, we have to be fair. And then also allowing other people to be flexible and then be willing to be flexible, because maybe sometimes you just state things outright, because sometimes, people just think about themselves and they
Right.
don't necessarily think how their stuff affects anyone else.
Correct.
So if you laying it all out, and it's like, how can we come to a resolution to where it's fair for everyone, and letting, the parties involved come to their own negotiation to where it's like, okay, well, maybe the person that wanted every Sunday out can be like, well, I can work maybe this Sunday and this Sunday.
Right.
But, and then that would make it a little bit more non-negotiable. Or they say, or not, excuse me, not non-negotiable, a little bit more fair. Or they can say, well, how about I work every Friday night if you let me take Sundays? Just letting them, talk it through, negotiate.
Right.
What would make this better for you if I get something? You get something, I get something, everybody's happy.
Everybody wins.
That's
and
right.
this goes into number 17, which is problem solving. And one of the best questions I like to ask in regards to negotiation and problem solving is, what would you like to see happen?
Mm-hmm.
If a conflict came up or if a problem came up, that I immediately ask the person, what would you like to see happen?
Mm-hmm.
And I think just asking that question, number one, just shows the other person that, number one, I care. I'm very empathetic about what you're feeling or thinking or what your viewpoint is. And then number two, I want to do something about it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be my way. It could be our way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think negotiation and problem solving does come hand in hand. So Marianne, why don't you go ahead and take us to number 18?
Number 18 is accountability. Accepting full responsibility for your words, thoughts, and actions during conflict resolution. Accountability can translate to owning lapses in judgment or emotional control. And this is where giving a sincere apology will go a long way.
I was literally about to say that. How hard is it really to apologize? It's one thing to apologize, but to actually mean it.
Whew. For me, mean it or not, it was like, I remember it was a time to where it's like, I would rather go through torture than to apologize. Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
that's tough. And a lot of people, they just don't want to apologize because, number one, they're not empathetic. And number two, they're defending themselves. And number three, I also think that they really don't care.
Or they think they're always right.
Or that.
It's not, I care about your feelings, but they're wrong. But the sooner you learn how to apologize, like especially when you're wrong, when you're wrong.
Facts.
But apologize, mean it, make it sincere, and then just let it go. You'll be so much happier.
Right.
Like you're not thinking about it anymore, and it's like, well, I've done my part. Whether they forgive me or not, that is
Right.
on them. But I genuinely mean that sincerely.
No one can ignore a sincere apology. Like, just as humans, we feel that.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
Unless you're just like a savage and don't care about people.
Yeah, the worst. Sometimes people don't know how to apologize. You know what I mean? So they'll be like, I'm sorry you felt that way. I felt that way because you did it. I would be fine had you not done it.
By the way, that's not an apology. I'm sorry you felt that way. It's not an apology.
Yeah, it's not an apology.
As we wrap up today, we're discussing conflict resolution skills. If you'd like to know more about our offerings, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Atlas Leadership Academy. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can also click the notification bell for updates. Join us next week as we continue to dive more into leadership topics and help you to become a better leader. Next week, don't forget, we're going to talk about part two of conflict resolution. So join us and don't be late to the party.